to Gino Auriemma to Rebecca Lobo, whose celebrated careers I had regularly chronicled and critiqued. Rare in a life of 65 years is a gathering so inclusive, except I suppose one's funeral. But from the time I was notified of the Gowdy Award in February 2017, I found myself trying to minimize it, half joking that I must not have insulted or alienated enough people within the basketball establishment that would grant such an honor. My young adult sons, in whom I had instilled a love of the game, wouldn't hear it, disabusing me of that self-shielding sentiment with their enthusiasm and pride. For no better reason than it was so important to them, it had to be for me as well. And the closer it got, the more significant the award seemed to become, and the more anxious I was. In the days before the event, I compulsively fine-tuned my speech as if the Pulitzer Prize were hanging in the balance. I wanted it to be smooth, entertaining, a story in itself. Of course, manic rewrites were nothing new for me. They were now a familiar, if still unpleasant, part of my established writing process. I doubt that many would have characterized me as shy, even noticeably modest. I was just always most comfortable and happiest in front of a keyboard, alone with my words and my whims. And while I'd had some experience speaking to audiences for one professional reason or another, I just never fancied the spoken word as my strength, the spotlight as my friend. The speech was formatted to be no longer than 5 minutes, though I'd been told by prior winners and a few basketball officials not to worry if I exceeded the requested limit. Just avoid Peter Vesey territory, they said. A one-time colleague of mine at the New York Post, in 2009, Vesey had droned on for roughly half an hour before no less a luminary than Jordan walked out, music was cued, and the mic was cut. Given that precedent, I actually wasn't too concerned about the length of my speech. But I had been forewarned that there was to be no teleprompter, as there would be the following night at the nationally televised show for the induction of players and coaches. Naturally, I didn't want to read the speech at the expense of eye contact with the crowd, nor did I want to lose my place and stutter myself into a state of babbling incomprehension. Hence, my nerves. Falling asleep, I had visions of fumbling the papers while the crowd murmured uneasily and my embarrassed sons slouched in their seats. Practicing in front of Beth, each attempt short-circuited by a glitch that elicited convulsive laughter or a string of profanities, was driving us both nuts. So I took her sound advice. I called Michelle, who began by telling me to relax. I would be fine no matter what. She also knew me well enough to guess that such a promise was a waste of her breath. An hour later, an email landed, in all uppercase letters, as were all of Michelle's messages, legibly shouted to get my attention. Harvey, why not try reducing your speech to bullet points and practice with just that outline instead of trying to read and look at the audience? It may just sound more sincere. Great idea, I wrote back, and got right to work, grateful as always that Michelle, who had made her living managing and coaching corporate executives, was always happy to hear from me and to help. During my years at the Times and for most of my days in the newspaper business, I had covered all sports, traveled around the world, shared great adventures with too many bright, talented people to count. But there was no one quite like Michelle. No smarter friend. No better mentor. At the crossroads and crises of adulthood, there was no wiser and more trusted elder. Her little speech tip was but a tiny example of the times she had been a lifesaver for me in a multitude of more challenging life crises. I owed her so much. Come to the Hall of Fame dinner, I had told her weeks before, knowing that without her, it would not be complete. That's a time for you and your family, she said. You are family. I know, but you know what I mean, she said. I did. I also knew that wasn't the real reason why, at 81, 16 years my senior, she declined the invitation. My brief time in the Hall of Fame spotlight began awkwardly,